Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire women to birth confidence and self-worth, to birth their dreams, passions, goals, business ideas, as well as discover peace amongst infertility. After going through my own sets of traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my own life. I am not barren. I continually birth my purpose every day. So that's why I've created this show, to demonstrate how even though we all experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting again. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your hardships and allow them to become the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life, so you can breathe fire on this world. This week's episode is called Physical and Emotional Burnout, and some points that we'll cover are how to deal with stress during this pandemic. Women are taking on extra roles at the moment, and how that can cause burnout emotionally, physically, and mentally. Stress also plays a role on our adrenal glands, hormones, and gut health. How can we practice self-care in this time? And balancing expectations is so vital in this process. And I have my friend here, Dr. Melani Robinson, to speak on this topic today. Dr. Melani Robinson is a licensed naturopathic doctor. She helps overwhelmed and exhausted women by educating them to get energized and empowered naturally. As a mother herself, she understands the overwhelming demands of motherhood and how it can be easy to avoid prioritizing your health. Dr. Robinson has a passion for mind-body connection and empowers her patients on reaching optimal health using gentle and evidence-based treatment. Dr. Robinson believes in individualized treatments and will assist one's journey to overcome obstacles to healing. She's interested in general family practice focused on women's health, pediatrics, digestive disorders, autoimmune conditions, asthma, and hormonal health. She's also fluent in both French and English. I consider her a mentor and a close friend. Welcome, Dr. Robinson, to the show.
Hi, Blaise. Thanks so much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you here today to share your insights and your passion for women's health. And you've been treating me for the last 6 years, actually, and you've just been such a driving force in assisting me to obtain my health and balance in life. And I just appreciate that and value your depth of wisdom and knowledge, and as well as your passion for this. So I really appreciate you coming on here today and having this open discussion about mental and physical and emotional burnout for women in these days.
It's a true honor, Blaise. It's been such an amazing journey we've had together, and you have chosen not to be a victim of your illness, and you have overcome so much, and you're such an inspiration to others, and I'm very proud of what you've overcome.
Well, thank you so much, and I think that's an amazing testament to have a team, a plethora of people of different knowledges and bases and just different expertise to help in our overall health. It's not just one, it's a whole body, and it's whole mind, body, and soul, and I think you embody that with your practice, and I really appreciate that, and I'm a big advocate of yours just because you help so many women and people across the board with different issues and just helping them obtain balance, and that's what this is all about, being a healthy, balanced life and achieving that. And that's why we're discussing today, how can we tackle this? It's a crazy time with this global pandemic. And I feel that women are really being bombarded with a lot of pressures and stress. Do you find that? Are you noticing that right now? What's happening? Is that a thing that's going to be facing women right now, is a lot of different stressors, and how can we tackle that?
Oh, of course. I'm continuing to practice naturopathic medicine with telemedicine, so over the phone, and I treat primarily moms in my practice, and it's amazing over the last month just how many women are overwhelmed and how many women are exhausted. Just nothing prepared us for these drastic lifestyle changes. It just seems like this pandemic happened overnight.
Exactly. And I think because women are such amazing doers, we get the job done. We know how to cover the bases. We are great at disasters and rallying together and getting things done. But I think that can add to our stress. And then overall, we've had to take on all these different roles. And it's just adding to the level of stress that are facing women, taking on the roles of being a stay-at-home mom, being working from home, trying to generate financial income, and becoming this amazing overnight homeschooling teacher. I think this is a really big pressure cooker for women right now.
Oh, for sure. You are right. I mean, we weren't given much time to mentally prepare ourselves for these changes, but luckily as humans, and I find, like you said, moms are able to adapt quickly and do what is best for the family. However, it can take a toll on our health. And burnout occurs when our physical bodies or our minds get overwhelmed and we're not able to get the adequate rest to recover from these high demands. And I feel that moms are already prone to burnout in our society when we're not in a pandemic, just due to the high demands of balancing everything. So this is now a whole other level of burnout for moms, especially. And like you said, the expectations that moms are putting on themselves it's just not attainable to become these superstar teachers, and as well as doing all the household tasks. It's so much pressure that we're putting on ourselves as moms, unfortunately.
Exactly. And I think, I wanted to get maybe just a little bit of an explanation of really what does burnout mean to you? Do you ever encounter burnout? Like how do you recognize some of the signals? Like right now we are in crisis mode and we are in let's go, let's do this job. But like I often tell people, like, we got to sit in the mess and we got to feel it out. And sometimes I think we're like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm not burnt out. I got energy. We're doing this. We got this. But like, this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. So like, what are just some ways to understand what maybe are factors and how we can understand what burnout it really is for women?
So burnout, as I said, it can be physical burnout, just your physical body is completely overworked and can't recover, or it could be mental or emotional burnout, which sometimes that's even more exhausting. So essentially, burnout can look like a woman that is constantly just overwhelmed and can't calm her nervous system, can't grasp, can't properly manage stress. So this can occur over time when a woman is under pressure and under constant stress, or I can use the words of fight or flight mode or survival mode. Right now, I find a lot of women are trying to thrive, but this may not be the time to thrive. We're all trying to survive. We need to survive this pandemic. However, we need to survive it without completely burning out. And burnout can look like the development of an illness, or of, it could take years even to recover from a full-on burnout. And I just find in the conventional medical model, burnout isn't as well recognized as maybe it should be. So this is where I find naturopathic medicine can shine, because we have a lot of tools to support the nervous system and support what's happening physiologically when there is a burnout, and also to help prevent burnout from happening.
Oh, that's a great explanation. And it can present in other ways too, like conflict, or just, your children, and we're in a close confined spaces. It can present in other pockets than we consider burnout to be, right?
Of course it can. And it can occur, I guess I should say, I'm hearing a lot of my moms that I'm talking with, having consults with these past weeks, how a lot of them are becoming more irritable. They have more anger. They're more short fused, for lack of better words, and then their sleeps are being affected. It's this whole vicious cycle because their kids are home. It just seems like, we're living amongst chaos right now, as you said earlier in the show. And I know there's a quote that I love to say. It's a Deepak Chopra quote, and this is just an abbreviation of it, but find stillness amongst chaos. And I know that's easier said than done, but learning to accept our reality and let go of all these expectations is a big part of this. I'm not saying it will prevent burnout. However, we need to let go of these expectations.
Absolutely. Yes. And pointing out some of these stressors of being confined and being with your children and trying to cover all these bases and how that plays on our emotional and irritability and just different emotions that are coming out. But I also wanted your opinion on the role stress actually plays on our body, on our physical body, like you said, about rest and sleep, but also about our adrenal glands, our hormones as women, and our gut health. And I wanted a little bit of your take on those three subjects there.
Yes, and I think that's great because as a naturopathic doctor, I like to empower women and really educate them on what's happening in their health for them to better understand. And often in those cases, the mom or the woman will be more motivated to make the changes with her health. So let's start talking, like you said, adrenal glands. So I will just briefly explain what stress does physiologically to our bodies, and it includes the adrenals. Okay. So stress releases a hormone called cortisol. So whenever you hear the word cortisol, think of stress. It also releases adrenaline in our body. These are released from our adrenal glands, which are these small almond-shaped glands above our kidneys, and they're vital for our survival. They help our body adapt to stress. And the stress could be physical, emotional, or mental. I mean, the stress could even be a woman skipping breakfast because she's so overwhelmed. That alone could be a physical stress on the body, releasing more cortisol and adrenaline. So there's so many stressors that can affect a human body. And so many of us, if not all of us, are definitely feeling stress during this pandemic. And I mentioned earlier, we're in a survival mode. So it's this low-grade constant stress that's keeping our bodies alert. And this involves those adrenal glands. However, if those adrenals aren't given the time to rest, then it manifests in insomnia, like problems with sleep. Our energy levels are dropping. Maybe we're not eating properly. Maybe we're not eating much at all, or we're overeating. It could affect our menstrual cycle. It could disrupt other hormones, lead to weight gain, PMS. I mean, the list goes on and on. The more stressed we are, the more demands our body puts on these adrenal glands. And then that can even weaken our immune system, which makes us more prone to getting sick. So it's this vicious cycle, and those adrenals play a vital role, but the more we abuse them, the more likely we could potentially lead to burnout.
Yeah, and it's so vital to understand our body. And I think for so long, women weren't really understanding the actual things happening inside our body. And I know women don't like to be told that we're hormonal during that time of the month, but like this is real. Our hormones are being affected, and we know how to do it, handle ourselves better, our health better when we understand our body better. So that's why I'm really excited to have you to explain this for us, that we should know what's going on with our hormones.
Yes, and that's so important. I mean, we could talk about hormones for hours. There's so many key hormones in a woman's body that plays a role or that gets impacted by stress. So I'll just give you an example. I'm not going to go through all these hormones, but a woman, say there's a mom in the pandemic, chronically stressed, and then her menstrual cycle is late just because of all these imbalances in hormones. It's delaying her period. So that's an example. Or the PMS gets worse. There's more irritability. She can't sleep properly. Maybe now she suddenly has acne. And all this could be stemmed from those adrenal glands chronically releasing adrenaline and cortisol, which then has an impact on progesterone and estrogen, which then impacts her cycle. It is all linked, and really nourishing those adrenal glands is a must to help our bodies survive this. Another example about hormones is, I'm going to talk about cortisol again. So elevated levels of cortisol can decrease melatonin. Melatonin is a sleep hormone for those of us who don't know that. And melatonin should rise in the evening to help us go to sleep and have a good night's sleep. But if cortisol is elevated at night, so I know a lot of women are wired but tired. They can't shut their brains off. They have all this mental chatter at night. They can't fall asleep. They can't stay asleep. Well, it's cortisol that's too high, melatonin's too low, and then that affects their overall sleep quality.
Yes. Yeah, it seems to all, coincide with one another. It's not three separate things, right? They all work with one another. And if one is impacted, then it's really a domino effect, isn't it?
It truly is. And sometimes it's hard to establish what's the root of it all, but the adrenals play a key role here, and other hormones that are very important are the thyroid gland, thyroid stimulating hormone, T3, T4, and there's other hormones involved here. And when I'm explaining this to women in my practice, I think it's so important for them to understand in our hormones, our endocrine system, we have our brain, our thyroid, our adrenal glands, and our ovaries, and they all talk to one another. So I don't see it, just as thyroid. If I get a patient who has a thyroid disorder, I won't just think of her thyroid. I'm going to think of all those other hormone centers and how they're talking to one another.
Mm-hmm. Communication inside the body, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's another thing going on to the third point here of physical is that I'm a big advocate about mind, heart, and gut health because those are your three brain centers in your body, and we don't often refer to our guts as brains, but they are, and they're so vital in the functioning of our entire body. And can you just touch on how gut health can really play a factor when we're going under this much stress, especially for women?
Yeah, I like how you refer to the three brains. So gut health, or the gut produces the majority of a neurotransmitter called serotonin. And serotonin is a happy neurotransmitter. So if our gut is not in adequate health, it can drastically impact our mental health and our mental well-being. And prolonged stress for sure has an impact on our gut health. And it goes back to earlier, I talked about the fight or flight. So when we're in chronic stress, it puts us in this fight or flight survival mode. When we're in that mode, there's less blood flow going to our gut. It's going more to our extremities because it wants our body to flight from what's affecting us. When we're calmer, we call it rest and digest mode. This sends more blood flow to the vital organs, which therefore helps us properly digest our food. We can absorb the nutrients. We can get more out of what we're eating. Common gut symptoms under prolonged stress often include loose stools, bloating, gas, heartburn is a big one, nausea. It's amazing how many women right now are telling me, I have this low-grade nausea all the time, but it's just they're in this state of survival. Their bodies are more constricted. There's less blood flow going to their organs, so that makes sense. And then this can also affect appetite. Some women eat more, some women eat less under prolonged stress. And the gut plays such a vital role, like I said, in mental health, but also in our immune system. Most of the immune system is within our gut. So our gut is vital to our overall health as well.
Oh, you've explained it so wonderfully, and it really is a whole package deal. We have to address all of these things and be conscious of what our stress levels are playing on in different areas in our body and how that's going to present in other areas of our lives because our bodies aren't communicating properly. They're overloaded, and it dips in and spills over into another organ or another area. And so I don't want to downplay that we can just be knowledgeable of this and boom, we're fine. We are in a serious situation here. We're getting stress things thrown at us each and every day, financial issues, worry, concerns, anxiety, all of this stuff is happening. This is a real concern, but we do have to be mindful of how can we approach this to at least create some sort of peace and balance and tackle this as best as we can. So what are some things that women can do to practice self-care and combat some of these stressors really overtaking our minds and bodies and mental and emotional health?
Yeah, I think that's great to talk about. I just want to say it's easier said than done. And with, our discussion with self-care, I don't want it to stress women more than they already are thinking, oh, I need to do this to calm myself down.
Exactly.
No, as long as there's a healthy stress outlet for each one of these women that helps calm the nervous system. I think what's most important is to be gentle with ourselves and once again lower those expectations. Like these times are so challenging. The fear of the unknown is unsettling and then leads to more stress. So whether the calming activity is a bath. Actually, that's been mine in the last month. I'm taking so many baths, lighting candles, just low lights, the warm water, the Epsom salts. That really calms my nervous system before bed. So that's been working for me, but I understand it may not work for everyone. Listening to music, reading, exercise. And the exercise, I know a lot of women have that self-guilt. I need to do X amount of exercise every day. I mean, as long as you're moving your body, it could be going for a walk or with your kids on their bike, at a social distance from others, like just honoring what we need to do with the social distancing, but just moving your body, just getting blood flow going through all of your body. This could be a time that you're working on some hobbies. Ideally, you want to find a stress outlet that calms you down, but I understand that for a very busy mom with kids home, it can be a challenge to carve out time to do this. This is where you need to find time and prioritize it. So maybe your house won't be as clean as you want it to be, but then you'll have half an hour a day to do something that calms you down. Maybe it's just sitting, staring at a tree outside your window, whatever it is that just can calm your brain and your body, because that leads back to the cortisol, adrenaline. We want to calm your adrenals down to release less of these stress hormones. And I have to say, Blaise, another thing that I keep hearing is women are getting stressed out on social media and with listening to the news. So limiting your exposure to these, and maybe it's just 30 minutes every morning, or maybe it's 0 on certain days to help calm you down, maybe a self-care outlet that you can utilize as well.
Absolutely. I think I've had to realize about myself that I was getting really roped into a lot of stuff, and I would just wake up heavy, so heavy, and I just had to disconnect a bit. I still am aware of the numbers. I'm still aware of what's happening, but it's from a distance. And that really impacted. I have a 6-year-old at home, and she's picking up on this, even though she's not maybe even directly in front of the TV, but she's picking up on the stress, right? So I'm having to distance for her, not even just for myself, but to make sure she's not so deeply overwhelmed, because children don't know how to process all of this and don't have the tools yet to kind of sift through these different scenarios and stressors. So we have to do that for them. So this is a double whammy for women. We're doing this for ourselves and for our children if we have kids at home. And we've got to be mindful of that nothing's going to be perfect, that self-care includes, like you said, prioritizing. There's going to be things that don't make the list, and that's okay. But why don't you make the conscious choice of what is important and what isn't, versus just piling so much at number one that important things get just fallen off, right?
That's so important. And I like what you said about your 6-year-old. Kids are highly impacted by their parents' state of health, their parents' emotional health. And the calmer the mom is, typically the calmer the children will be. But I understand that's not possible every day due to our new reality. But yes, the more self-care a mom can do for her, the better it will improve her well-being, but it will also nourish the entire family. So that's so important. And the other thing I want to say with self-care, these are basic things, but I find so many women in general, even when we're not living in this pandemic, don't do is hydration. Have a glass of water available at all times. And sometimes I tell moms maybe have a glass of water on each level of the house, because you need to keep yourself hydrated. And then it's balancing. The diet is another big component. I understand it can be stressful due to finances, availability in the store, time, but just do your best to focus as much as you can on wholesome foods, because I know a lot of people are going to the processed, the sugar, high sugar foods, and that has such negative impact on our cortisol and our hormones. And then a good night's sleep. But I know that it's this vicious cycle. The more stressed we are, typically the more sugar, salts we crave, and then that plays into our hormones, and then it affects our sleep. And it's baby steps. And if you're making sure you're eating on a regular basis, you're drinking water, and you're carving out, even like I said, 30 minutes of time for you, I mean, that's amazing. That's a good start.
Absolutely. And like sometimes we can't even make it out the door. Like we've got more kids at home, you're running a business from home. Like there's all these factors. But even like for me, I put on, a song and just dance it out. That's getting flow into your body. That's it's an outlet for you. So whatever that looks like for you, just allow that to work and have some exercise and whatever release that you can possibly find in your day to attribute to your self-care is just so important. But like also with being healthy and making health choices, like we're in a crazy time. Like we go to the grocery store and there's things that are healthy that we can't get, and there's vital items that we can't get. But so if we can't get exactly what we're looking for to help us with our physical bodies, what are some supplements that you could suggest that we could have on hand to help us with that healthcare perspective of keeping healthy and balanced for women's bodies?
Yeah, so I'll list some main ones that I like to use. I just won't be commenting on dosing or brands. It's important to speak to a licensed healthcare provider that has the knowledge to properly prescribe natural medicine, but I will list some key supplements that have a major role with stress management and hormone support. So a big one are B vitamins. So there's several B vitamins that are out there, and they play different roles, but it may just be easier to focus on a good B complex to get all of them. I will point out B vitamins can give energy, so it's usually best taken earlier in the day, and always to take it with food, as if you take them on an empty stomach, it could actually lead to nausea, and I feel so many women are feeling nauseous right now due to the high stress, so make sure you take it even in the middle of your meal to give you more energy and help with the stress management. So that's a really important one. They're usually very affordable and easily found. Just be mindful that B vitamins are water soluble. That means we pee them out. And usually our urine will be bright yellow. Don't be alarmed. That is completely normal when you take B vitamins. The more you take at once, the more you'll probably eliminate through urine. So, even just taking one can be sufficient. And then another one of my favorite ones is magnesium. Most of us have heard of magnesium. It's a mineral, and it's involved in hundreds of reactions in the body. Magnesium is a common deficiency in women just due to our hormones. So now that we're all in a higher stress environment, it's utilizing more magnesium. It's very important in supporting our hormones and calming our nervous system. I just want to point out that there's different types of magnesium available, and I'll talk about two right now. So if you're prone to constipation, then you may want to consider magnesium citrate. And if you have irregular bowel movements, you have looser stools, then take magnesium glycinate, because that won't have as much impact on your digestive tract. Magnesium can be taken any time of day, but it is more effective and beneficial in the evening or at bedtime because it can calm us down and could improve the quality of your sleep. So those are some two key players here, and I'll just name a couple more. One of my favorites that I like to use is called L-theanine. Theanine. So it's an extract of green tea that is great at calming our nervous system. So it's helpful for anxiety, restlessness, and chronic stress. It is not sedating, and it can be taken any time of day. So a common question I get is, well, can I just drink green tea to get the theanine? Well, L-theanine, it's an extract of green tea. So you'd have to drink a lot of green tea, and then there'd be the impact of caffeine. So yeah, it's just not ideal to go at it that route. It's best to supplement with L-theanine. There's different forms. Some come in chewable or powder or capsules, but it's definitely something that is very calming. And lastly, I will talk about herbs. So the class of herbal medicine that is used to help deal with stress they're known as adaptogenic herbs, which I think are great. They're helping the body adapt to stress. And I'll just name some of my favorite herbs that I love to use with burnout and even just to help the body cope with stress. So ashwagandha is an amazing herb. Rhodiola is one of my favorite herbs. Licorice and ginseng. So these are 4 key herbs that help your adrenals adapt to stress. However, when it comes to herbal medicine, you definitely want to consult a licensed healthcare provider because herbs can interact with medications, and they also have contraindication with health conditions such as high blood pressure. So I'm not saying everyone should go out there, get all these herbs and start taking them. No, this is a time when you for sure want to talk to someone who has the knowledge and the credentials to help know what dosage, which ones you should take. Some of these herbs calm the nervous system and some will provide more energy. So some women, when they're highly stressed, it depletes their energy. So therefore they need supplements to, I don't want to use the word rev them up, but just provide more natural energy. And then some women that are highly stressed get that wired but tired. So they need more calming herbs. So that's also important to differentiate. Those would be some supplements to consider. I know it's a lot of information, and it's just to do your best to consult someone who is qualified to help figure out what's the best avenue for you, what's the best forms, and there's a lot of other natural therapies that can help support stress and burnout.
Oh, that's so amazing. That's just great tips of what we could try and work through and at least give us something to help us balance burnout and not get so depleted, right? And then that leads into balance, the word balance. And I know that can be a little bit tricky because if we're thrown 50 balls at us right now, like legit, we're not going to be able to balance all 50 balls up in the air and perfectly with, our little skirt on and a smile on our face and everything done around the house and our children all good. Some things are going to fall. And I think that one of those things we can allow to fall is high expectations from ourselves that think we can do it all. And then also the expectations of others on social media, of our loved ones or people on the outskirts that aren't really knowing what's happening in our lives. And maybe we can just talk about how can we balance the expectations we put on ourselves as women?
Oh, it's like the $1 million question there, Blaise. I know this is a very challenging time, and I feel as women we need to acknowledge these are unprecedented times, and I believe we must learn to be gentle with ourselves and learn to pace ourselves since this new reality, it's going to be around for a while. This is not just a 2-week moment of life. This is a more long-term. The self-guilt that so many moms may be feeling, it's not serving you. As moms, we have to learn to let that go, and I know that leads into balance. So when it comes to balance with what's happening right now, I think as women and as mom individually, we have to figure out what best nourishes us. Because finding balance, it's a struggle with so many moms in a normal life, let alone with what we're living in right now. And right now we're all adapting to a new balance, and this balance can change weekly and even daily. And one thing that I want to point out, which may help us figure out to find that balance is it's David Kessler's work. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's done so much research around grief. And he's recently come out, I think it was in the New York Times, an article interviewing him, that the discomfort we're all feeling is called collective grief. He was also recently on a Brené Brown podcast discussing this. It was an amazing episode. I highly recommend it. So, we're grieving our regular lives. Our kids are grieving going to school, seeing their friends. They're grieving their activities. We're grieving going to a coffee shop and not needing to worry about getting ill. Mostly we're grieving human connection. Yes. And I just recently thought I will never take a hug for granted again. This new reality is such a major adjustment, and we don't know how long it's going to last. And that unknown feeling is what makes it so stressful. So to find the balance amongst this chaos is, I don't have the answer, but you need to find what calms you. So I know for me, I said taking that warm bath, I look forward to it, and I know that's a moment of just calming my mind, body, and spirit. And I'm learning to really embrace that present moment with my 4-year-old. Like what you said, you put on music and you dance it off. We've had so many fun dance parties, and it's just such these beautiful moments I'm sharing with him. It's actually helping find balance in my life. However, I know it's not, making up for all these unknowns that are happening. So the point of all this is the balance you're trying to find, or that I'm encouraging all of us to find, it may change as this progresses. And we need to let go of the expectations and the guilt, and we need to be gentle. This is a time where we need to cultivate that self-love for ourselves, because that will help our entire family and help bring more peace and calm within the household.
Oh, that you said it beautifully. And also, just finding balance within our schedules, and that we've become this culture of very busy and jam-packed, and all of a sudden it came to a grinding halt overnight, and now we don't know what to do with this time and this silence and the lack of busy. And I think that then we're kind of activating that fight or flight, what do I do with this stillness, and there's no noise, and there's too much noise of other kinds of our kids and stuff. But allow yourself to sit in the silence. And I've really had to really enjoy and accept and find gentleness with silence and peace, and accept it and let it become part of my routine, and allow it to work with my life, not against it, and not be bored. It really is cultivating new conversations with my 6-year-old, because she's sitting there in silence, having these thought-provoking questions in her head, and she's asking them. She's asking at bedtime, how do they make paper? How does a soul come into a body? And I was like, you're 6. How are you even asking these questions? But it's because we've embraced the silence and the non-busy part of our lives. And I think that's part of the balance, is just acceptance. Acceptance that we cannot change it. Stop getting frustrated, just accept and allow some gentleness, like you said, into our life, to allow some sort of calm, right?
Oh, that's so beautifully said. And I like how you said we were conditioned as a society to be busy and go nonstop. And yes, it came to a halt. And I think there's actually so much beauty around that, because it's allowing us to reflect on what is important. What do I want to go back to after this is all done? And really embracing that time. Like I'm saying, the time with my 4-year-old, the time with your 6-year-old. Yes, it can be challenging. For sure it can be. But it's to, just press pause and be with it and be very present. And it's helping families connect and come together. And I think we need to express compassion and kindness towards ourselves and towards others during this time. And we also must support one another and uplift each other. I strongly believe as moms, we need our tribe. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the time to call upon your tribe, right? We have virtual FaceTime, Skype. We have all these amazing tools that we can still be connected, but obviously not physically. And I know that that's what this collective grief is about, that human connection. But believe it or not, you're growing as a mom, you're growing as a woman and as a human being during this time. And that the lessons we're all learning, they may not be apparent right now, but may come forth down the road in the future.
Absolutely. And even if you just, take this moment to be present and take initial steps and gentleness to avoid burnout, that's a huge accomplishment. And right back to the beginning of what you said, stop trying to thrive and let's just survive in a very conscious way, where we can be proud of how we came through this, even if we didn't conquer the world. And some of these posts I'm seeing of you better make your time wisely, and it's just so much pressure. No, if you can be present with yourself and with your life and still appreciate human connection and kindness and really avoid getting yourself into this pit of burnout, then that's a huge accomplishment. And I give women a pat on the back. If you can just do that in this time, that is a huge accomplishment for us.
Oh, it truly is. And I like that we're having this discussion and we're agreeing, release the expectations, release it. And I hear it all the time. Like you said, you're seeing posts about, women want to fully spring clean the house and organize and purge and start a project and do all this stuff. I mean, that's great. If you have the energy to do it, by all means, be my guest. But is that really important? I mean, just the emotional burden and stress of the unknown can completely drain someone. It comes down to learn to be okay and accept this silence and just acceptance. I like that you said that. And actually, David Kessler, the man that talks about the grief, talks about acceptance. I mean, it's part of the grief cycle. And it may take some women days, weeks, months, years to have that acceptance.
Yes. But like you said, baby steps and one step at a time. And together we can do this, womankind, together as humanity, right? And it's just about finding that kind of pulse within us and taking that time and sensing our pulse and recognizing what we need, asking ourselves questions. What do I need in order to feel calmer? What do I need in order for this to feel more balanced for me? And asking yourself that questions and really cultivating that inner dialogue will help us discover that. But it's asking these questions and posing questions within ourselves and allowing ourselves to discover the answer. We're very well equipped. We just need to tune inwards and tune into that frequency within us, in our bodies, in our minds, and our souls. And that's what's the point of my whole show, is uncovering different topics, stripping away the layers, and finding the pulse of humanity. So I'll just recap what we talked about today. We talked about different ways women are being faced with stressors and how that's being affected in this pandemic season. We've talked about different roles women are taking on, and then that stress is really playing a role in our physical health, on our adrenal glands, hormones, and guts. We've talked about some tips on self-care and how can we actually do this in this time, and what kind of supplements can help us and assist us in our daily health, and then how can we balance the expectations within ourselves and from others, and just finding that balance in this crazy time that we're living in. And going forward too, this is a good time to, take count of what our health means to us and what we really want moving forward. And I think this is a great time to get back to that main core of conversation of what health means to us individually. Thank you so much, Dr. Melani Robinson, for coming on the show with me, having this discussion with me, really this open dialogue of what burnout means, how can we avoid it, how can we take steps to have conscious, healthy lives for ourselves and for our children. Now, if people want to get in touch with you and really access your wealth of knowledge, how can people get in touch with you?
Yes, well, thanks so much for having me on the show, Blaise. It's been such a true honor, and I've really appreciated this dialogue that we've had today. So if you want to follow me on social media platforms, my professional Facebook is Dr. Melani Robinson, Naturopathic Doctor, and then you can find me on Instagram at drrobinson, ROBINSON_ND. I do practice at Optimum Wellness Integrated Clinic in Edmonton, Alberta, and will be accepting new patients once this pandemic is over and I'm able to see patients face-to-face. However, I can continue treating my existing patients with follow-up visits using telemedicine. So those are my platforms there, and I hope that this has empowered some of your listeners to really learn to let go and nourish themselves.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. That's it for this week's episode. Challenge yourself to be vulnerable. Lean into the difficulties and have those open conversations with yourself and with others so we can all rise up as the heroes of our lives, and let us breathe fire together. If you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe and support Blaise the Trail podcast. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaise the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.